Okay, hey, welcome everyone. Excited to be back for another Workshop Wednesday. Thank you for joining us again in celebration of Diablo's Design Month at Top Coder. May is all about design, front-end design creation, front-end design development, anything and everything to do with awesome design at Top Coder. So we are here in celebration of Diablo's Design Month. Diablo was a amazing designer, great friend, amazing friend to the community, an MVP, and we lost him too soon. And so we are now celebrating Design Month as Diablo's Design Month. So please do check out the website, check out Diablo's information, check out his designs. We do miss him. Showcasing what we have going on right now. If this is your first time joining us for Workshop Wednesday, last week we talked about Figma. The previous week we kicked off all of our Workshop Wednesdays and the month. And today I'm very excited to have Murat on, who is the CEO of Marvel App, and he will be joining us shortly. I wanted to point out, as part of Design Month, we now have the leaderboard posted. So if you are earning points based on any of the design challenges, fun things that we are doing as part of Design Month, Jesse's Design Month Dash, the Rapid UI Design Tournament, and any of the other fun challenges, your points have now they're now starting to appear on the leaderboard. So we have our regular leaderboard and we have our newbie leaderboard. So this is now starting to be populated. Today we have Murat on, then we also have Workshop Wednesday next week, where we are talking with developers and designers and the best practices and best ways to work together. And to, of course, this is a key thing for me. As you know, at Top Coder, I feel we do a great job of converting a designer's vision into great front-end code because of all of our amazing developers, all of you who take the time to learn the pixel precision that it takes to leverage front-end technologies like React and Angular, and understand the browser, the different issues that we have with browsers and how to render designs properly. So please do check out the website and the page all about Diablo's Design Month. And a reminder, why we're here and what we do. So, Top Coder Design, we are a global design community focused on solving real world graphic design and user experience problems through through our collective creativity and the crowd, which is all of you. So this is a challenge-based process where designers submit their design concepts or solution for critique and feedback. As many of you know, we've worked very hard to make sure that you are getting your feedback and have implemented the designer review board in the past year. So if anybody is interested in knowing more about the designer review board, please do reach out and contact us. We are always open to more designers, more community members joining the designer review board. This design process, we promote design education, open design thinking, and innovation through rapid design. So it is a way about challenging ourselves, the design process, and the way we work together as a design community. Hey, Murat, how you doing?
Hey everyone, thanks Adam for holding the fort there. Sorry I'm a bit late, managed to sort out Zoom, so all ready to go whenever you want.
All good. I have my little intro piece that I do each each Workshop Wednesday, so it all works out. So I'd like to introduce to everyone out there, Murat, our friend and CEO and co-founder of Marvel. Many of you are very familiar with Marvel because we leverage the Marvel platform in every design challenge that we run. So I am very excited to have Murat here today to talk about his journey, to talk about Marvel, where they started, and really any advice he has for all of you, and really what's going on with Marvel, because I think they have an amazing platform. Obviously I think that because we're partners with them, but I think what their platform has done for us over the last few years has been able to present all of your designs, all of your concepts to our customers in a much more efficient way. And of course, allowed all of you to receive feedback and receive direction to become better designers. So Murat, welcome and thank you for being here. How would you like to get started?
Thanks for having me. So what I thought I could do is I've got a presentation that I'd love to share and start with. I'll give everyone a bit of an introduction as well to just a bit more detail about what this presentation is about. So I'm sure that many of you are very interested in products, very interested in side projects and getting things up and running for yourselves. One of the things that I'm super passionate about and actually led to the formation of Marvel is side projects and how important that is to, I guess, experiment and then being able to get really passionate about something that you go home every day to and you want to keep improving. And, if all things align, that could eventually be something that you could, form into a business. And that's what happened with Marvel. Along the way, I've learned a bunch of lessons in starting a startup, and I thought I could share some of those with you. And it's quite an interesting mix of, I guess, some of the things we learned from going from a side project right away to building Marvel to then actually, how do you even get people to use something that you've built? Like, where do you find users? We didn't have any money. So it's like, what are the best things to do to kick things off? And then, and just a few things on top of that, which I felt that I learned as a designer and how to implement some of the things that I'd seen elsewhere. And I thought, well, what if we could do that? Maybe people would like using Marvel. So I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know if you can't see it.
I can see it.
Cool. All right, let's hit play. Cool. Okay, so to kick things off, I'm obviously the co-founder of Marvel, and I am a designer, and this is about the weird and wacky road from the side project to a startup. A bit about me to kick things off. So I've had almost every title under the sun when it comes to being a designer. I've had a UX designer, UI designer, experience designer, IA designer, all the things, but essentially I'm just a designer. Prior to Marvel, never started a business before. I'd always been in freelance or full-time roles. So all the things that I learned were completely new to me. And, building all of these things up along the way to then reuse over and over, I think has been key to trying to make a side project into a business. So hopefully I can share some of those too. Prior to Marvel, I'm not a superstar designer. I don't have a very good portfolio. I've worked on very forgettable apps and services that you have probably never run into. Such as the Captain Morgan Party Starter app when I was at an agency, and the Dove Moisturizing Cream Find the Ingredients web app adventure. So, my experience in product was very limited prior to Marvel. I was really passionate about product, but I had typically worked in ad agencies and marketing agencies. And in those places, you don't really spend time on, perfecting a product. You just build something to get the budget and then instantly build the next thing after that. So, my experience in iteration and putting the end user first wasn't exactly there. Although I was really passionate about it, I never got an opportunity to do it. But what I realized after several years of working in an industry was that if I was going to continue working at agency land, I would probably come out of it with a portfolio that wasn't representative of the things I was passionate about. Things that like Captain Morgan, a party starter app, aren't the things that are going to get you hired at Twitter or Facebook. And I realized that I wanted to change that so I could then, get a good job at some point in the future. So that was one of the reasons that spurred me to create side projects and, try to find things that I was really passionate about, because my day-to-day wasn't something that was providing that. So this is a good picture of me at agencies and trying to push things forward with new ideas. So I kept trying to, turn these agencies into what I thought an agency should be, which was like a very product-orientated place, and that was never happening. So I got this email, which was the moment I decided to quit. Getting this is actually what this email said, and this was from a client at the time. And this was the moment that I realized that I had to get out of the agency world and move into something that was more, I guess, tech and product-orientated. So the client brief came through. Can you make something like Angry Birds, but with baked beans instead of birds? So you can maybe guess what brand that was, but I'm not going to say. And that was the moment I thought, right, well, if I carry on doing this, there is absolutely no chance that I'm going to get better at what I do. And thankfully I didn't get to make this. I actually left before this project finished. And I then actually put together a plan to exit the agency land. And the thing is with agencies is that they are, if you're a young designer, they're actually good places to work on the social side. And, it's a very interesting environment, very active, like super buzzy, loads of things going on, very interesting people, and quite hard to get away from, because if you have an agency portfolio, you're very likely to go to another agency afterwards. You just have that type of work. And I didn't have any product work, so I couldn't pick and choose where I wanted to go. And I knew I would always fall back on something I was comfortable with and go to another agency if I didn't make a change. So I decided to do something really stupid. And I wrote a blog post basically bashing the whole entire agency industry. And it was called, the title of the post was called "Why Talented Creatives Are Leaving Your Shitty Agency." And I wrote it in frustration and just wanted to get out. And unexpectedly it went viral, and a million people, it got about 1 million views, and whenever you googled my name, that came to the top. So I guess it had the effect of making me unhireable. I got a load of emails from very angry agency executives and things like that. And so basically that set the wheels in motion. I was no longer able to be hired by the agency land, and then I had to go off and find something else to make money. So this is the start of my journey into side projects. And it didn't just start with Marvel. Marvel was like the final side project, but all of the side projects along the way were really interesting journeys, because that's how I found my co-founder. And it allowed me to then form a bond with him and my other co-founder, which then eventually led them to being, critical part of starting Marvel. So first up, here's my first ever side project. And this was whilst I was in an agency, in fact, at least at the end part. So in most agencies, you want to look cool to your clients. You want to do work that they are going to look at and go, right, I want to hire this agency to do some cool digital stuff. And I thought, well, it would be a great idea to do something cool at Christmas to send to our clients to show them how cool we are, and use innovative technology and have a bit of fun at the same time. And at that time, I was at a mobile agency, so I decided that it would be cool to send everyone a mobile Christmas card, and you can get it on your phone, open it up, and it will do something cool on the device, and then do something after that, and hopefully give a good, nice feeling to our clients and show that we can do really innovative work. This was it. This was a Safari shaped to snow Xmas card thing. At that time, this was a while ago. You can see it's a very old device. So the accelerometer had just been able to be accessed by Safari at the time. So you can actually shake the phone and stuff happens in a mobile browser. Previously, it was just if you had an app. So I pitched this idea to the CEO of the agency, and he said no, because he thinks the effort and time and money would be better spent on AdWords. So I was like, all right, cool. Maybe if I just do this myself, maybe someone would like that. So one of the developers I was working with in the agency on a separate team, I reached out and I was like, hey, we work together on projects. I've got this idea. It's really silly, but I think it could be a bit of fun. Shall we build it? He was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So we spent, I think we spent maybe 2-3 days on this, like putting together, putting the URL and stuff. And we released it because it was Christmas. We released it a few days before Christmas, which I found out was an absolutely terrible thing to do with any launch. Do never launch a few days before Christmas. So unfortunately, it got 23 page views in total. So it was really disappointing. And that was it was a blow, because as a designer, you're really passionate about any of your creations, and you want to see them do well. So having invested a little bit of time into it and a fair amount of emotion, because obviously I got rejected and wanted to prove a point by doing it myself, I found that it's a lot harder to make things work. So we had moved on from this. So fast forward a year later, we had moved on. But my life lesson number one is don't release anything before Christmas. No one's going to look at it. People are busy planning on what they're going to eat. So that was the first lesson. So 1 year later, I had moved on into, probably freelancing at that point. My Brendan, who helped me build this, now my co-founder, he had moved on, and we had forgotten about it, just swept it under the carpet, tried to, not talk about it too much. And there was a book that just got released at the time. I don't know if any of you've heard of this chap. He's called Luke Wabowski. He is a really good mobile UX expert, works at Google, or worked at Google, and he created this book called Mobile First. And at that time, there was a big push for every company to put mobile number one on their list of things to do. If you make a mobile experience, you need to actually plan that ahead of the web one. So I bought this book because everyone else was reading it, and I was flicking through, and on one of the pages was a snow globe, and it had made its way into the book. And so, it was there in its full glory as a good example of what you could do with mobile. And this was like amazing. Like, we felt like this was like recognition. I didn't actually get asked for permission to get this put in the book. It was just there. So it was very cool to see. And I honestly think if Luke hadn't put this in the book, we might not have made Marvel, because it gave us the encouragement to work together again. And then go, okay, right, well, we can make this cool little side project. What's next? What can we do after that? And, it spurred us on to the next thing. So got back in touch, and, me and Brendan decided to maybe this time aim a little bit bigger and go for an actual product. So the next thing, next life lesson is, prior to this, I was really, I used to hoard ideas. Like, I used to keep a notepad of loads of ideas and go, right, I'm not going to tell anyone this because I don't want anyone to build it. But after this, I realized that what you really should be doing is that you should be pushing your ideas out there in any form that you have available to you, whether it's a blog post, a tweet, if you can ship something yourself, great, because you just have absolutely no idea who might be looking at it, right? So if we would have held on to that little snow globe idea and not released it, we wouldn't have got, out of those 23 people, one happened to be writing a book about mobile experiences, and then he published it, and there you go. Suddenly, the work's out there in a book for everyone to see. So I think that, if you can put your ideas out, you might find your next co-founder, you might find an investor, you might find a like-minded person to go for coffee, and you might find someone who's publishing a book. Like, you never know. So really recommend doing that if you're someone that is kind of an ideas person and you're just constantly trying to find things to build or create or put out there. So next up, we have our next product that we built together. Not a great name. It's called Instabam. It finds Instagram photos around the world based on your location. So let's say you're standing in a spot in New York City, it will instantly find photos around you and start pulling them in based on that location. Instagram didn't have this as a feature at the time, and it was really, really popular. But the great thing about this was that it was actually a product. Like, you'd sign into it, you sign into Instagram account, people would use it, ask for features, and it started to help us feel like, wow, this is what it's really like to build a product. You have users, you iterate, you make things better over time. So it was a really exciting little project, and it actually started to get a little bit of traction, considering its size. It got featured by Apple in like various locations, and I think overall it got like about 50 to 100,000 downloads or something like that. And it was very cool, and we enjoyed it. And this is the moment, I think, then I kind of went from my perception of being a product designer or building products completely changed, because I was able to talk to users, solve problems, and that was the bit that got me hooked. I was so addicted to the feeling of solving a problem that I just realized I would never want to do anything again. And there's this really, really good quote from a chap called Dustin Curtis, and it goes like this. And it sounds a bit weird, but I'll talk you through it and why it's important. Let me just quickly minimize this because I can't zoom things in the way. So it says, on solving user problems, once you've discovered it, there's no going back. It's addictive and powerful. It ruins your ability to be a worker bee because you've tasted blood. You now become a killer bee, intent on understanding why things are the way they are, finding their flaws, and pushing the universe forward by fixing them. And that's kind of how I felt about once I kind of discovered that, there's a way to solve user problems. It just felt so challenging in every way that, moving forward, that's all I wanted to do. So we built that, and now we're like, right, we want to build something bigger. Like, we've done these two things. They are, in their own little way, relatively interesting and exciting and successful. But what could we do that could be a business? Are we capable of doing more than this? And that's how the idea for Marvel started to form. So the reason why I guess all of this kind of works is because I was able to find co-founders who were equally as passionate, as bored as I was, as the status quo. We were working in agencies, we work in our teams. And I think when you find someone in the place you work who's experiencing the same things as you, who knows how you like to work, I think you form a really good bond than just meeting a stranger in the street, right? Like, to find your co-founders are typically people you've worked with, they've seen your good and bad sides. And I think that was really important. So I was able to find Jonathan and Brendan because we worked together in these previous places. And I knew what motivated them. I knew that they were bored of, the same projects I was bored of. And we were all really excited about exploring new technology. So I made them, we were really compatible that way. But I think if you are going to go find a co-founder, you have to realize that when you start something, it could last a while. Like, Marvel's been running for like 6+ years now. And, for any relationship to last that long, you have to be able to like that person a lot and spend a lot of time with them, solve problems with them. You're going to disagree, of course, but I think the cliche is like, it's like a marriage, and it really is. Like, it's a really long-term bond, and you will go through ups and downs with that person. So are you willing to trust them? Are you willing to put your career in their hands, vice versa? And I think those are really important questions to ask. One of the things that I think worked well is that we all decided to go away together, and we all got to know each other, in a setting that isn't just go into an office, leave it. So I think that really helped as well. But I think it's really important to realize, like, there's once you go down the road of starting your business together, and you start gaining customers, and it starts working, like, you're kind of locked in. You can't really get off the train. So you want to make sure that the people that you're on that with are going to be as committed and as invested as you are, because there's nothing worse than going into something wholeheartedly when the other person's 60%, 70%, 80%. That difference is going to make a huge impact on your business. And I think the best thing that someone said to me around this is that as a human being, as a designer, as a co-founder, as a business leader, whatever it might be, you're going to have ups and downs in your day. Like, no one's 100% every single day. But when you're 90%, your co-founder might be 110% because they are just running on a different level that day. And that's what makes it up, and that's what helps you keep moving forward. So you've got to find someone that can make up, not just, the energy blips that you may have over time, but also complement your flaws. Like, what are the gaps that you have as an individual, as a professional, and what could they do to fill those gaps? And, if you find the right person, then you're then covering all bases. So this was the initial problem that Marvel set out to solve. Back then, it was very difficult to make a prototype. You had to have HTML and CSS skills. And you found that a lot of agencies would go in and pitch for multi-million-pound contracts based on PowerPoint. And they would often take the designs and do something a little like this. They would make a slide. They would put some clip art in it. They would put the agency logo, the client logo. There'd be a little bit left for the design in the middle. But overall, you would find that any impact of your design, which you might have spent weeks on, has been lost in this sea of, horrible slides. And my experience in this was that I had been working on a pitch for several weeks, and it was for an iPhone app for a big global drinks company. And I had done every screen, like, in retina detail. I'd made sure all the layouts were great. I'd perfected all the buttons. I took so much time and effort into making this design work. And the way agencies work in London, at least, is that you have to pitch like you've already won it. So do all the work up front, and then you show that to a client, and the client goes, yeah, that's all I want. Let me sign something. And they get what they saw in the deck. So basically, I designed an entire app for a pitch, and it took several weeks. And then when I found out how it eventually got presented by the business account manager, I was mortified. I opened up a PowerPoint, saw that it was like crushed, pixelated work, and it just looked terrible. And I was like, oh my God, like that several weeks of work just now looking like a mess. And we didn't win the business anyway. And I realized that I think is because the client didn't really understand what we were trying to convey, because you just can't go through 50 slides and show people 50 different screens and understand the flow. It's really difficult to do that. So I was like, right, for the next pitch, I want to go in and I want to show my designs on the device. I want to be able to save them to the photo roll. At that time, that's what you had to do. I saved all the images to the photo roll, and then I took it out and it was a slideshow. And I showed it to a client on a different pitch, and the client was amazed. They thought the app was real. They were started to like go, how did you build it so quickly, and all of that stuff. So I was like, right, well, this is a really good start. And eventually we won that pitch. And what I realized was that not only did my work look good because it was on the screen, it was in actual full res retina detail. The client was super happy. The agency made money. And all of it just seemed to work really well. So I was like, right, there's probably a product solution there, because the actual process of getting the designs onto the photo roll are horrible. Like, you have to send an email with an attachment, open the attachment. So when the client said, can you just share that with me after the pitch? I was like, I can't really, because I've got to tell you 50 different ways to do this, and it's really cumbersome. So I was like, right, wouldn't it be great if there was just a URL and you could go to that URL and get what you need and experience a prototype? So that's how Marvel started. So this is our first office. This is my living room. It's my kitchen. So we got started and we spent maybe 3 months in evenings and weekends, like building a Marvel. We got together, we cracked on, we built an iOS app and the web app, and it was super simple. The first version of Marvel didn't do much. It just allowed you to link screens together, and that was it. There was no developer handoff, no collaboration. It was just a link and some images on that. And this was the first version of what Marvel. And what we decided to do at that point, which actually was the killer feature we had way back when, was that we built the whole thing off the Dropbox API. Because one of the things that took a ton of time was every time you make a change to your design, you have to export it out as a PNG, re-upload it. And we figured, well, everyone's already got their designs on Dropbox, like all your PSDs. We were supporting Photoshop back then, so it was PSDs. All your PSDs and your PNGs and stuff live there. So what if we just allowed people to point Marvel to the Dropbox folder, and then we pick everything up? So instead of people bringing their files to us, we go to the files. And that was the thing that really saved people a lot of time. So even though we didn't have a lot of features, this one thing was the thing that actually was the most popular and made us a really useful workflow tool. So that's all we needed to do, is just find that problem and solve it. Like, we solved a couple of things, and one of them was saving you time, making you look better, and saving you a bunch of money, because you didn't need to use developers to build HTML, CSS prototypes. So all of those things combined was enough to get us to a point where we got 800 users, which was amazing. And we were like, wow, this is it. This is the moment of truth. Like, we're going to turn into Facebook. We were so excited, but we ran out of money because we left our jobs. So I had about £3.50 left in my bank account. We needed some funding, or we needed to find a job to keep this going. So I did what anyone would do in my situation. I tried to go out and find investors. And it turns out that finding investors when you are not from the tech or startup world is incredibly difficult. And I was from the agency world. I didn't know any investors. I had to I went to a lot of investors' websites, and I filled out the contact form asking for funding. And apparently that's the worst thing to do, because no one looks at those emails, or if they do see that email, they think this person's not motivated enough to find me for a conversation. They're trying to go for a contact form on a website. Why not just reach out to me on LinkedIn? So I wasn't doing particularly well. So one of the things I learned is that if you are going to go down this route, save up some money before leaving your job. That would be very helpful. I didn't do that. And then, if you're going to bootstrap, make sure you've got the funds, because even if you do get an investor, the process of legals and everything else takes some time. Like, you might find an investor next week, but it could take 2 months to go through the legal work. So you need to be able to fund yourself in that period. So this is what I did. I basically emailed everyone I knew and just said, hey, we might have worked together in the past, or you know me, I need some money. Do you know any investors that could give us some money? Thanks a lot, bye. And so I sent this to everyone I knew. And because I'd freelanced and I'd been at a bunch of jobs, like, I just thought, doesn't matter who this goes out to, I just need to make sure that I get the word out. And fortunately enough, someone who I'd freelanced for had left their job and worked at a new place, and their boss had just decided to retire and become an angel investor. So Cien introduced me to Scott, who had just decided to be an angel investor, and we were their first investment. So we managed to get 60K angel investment from a fund called Hatch. And then we set up a business for £9.50, which is what it cost in the UK. And we got really excited about building Marble. So we were ready to go. So we rented some desks, as you do. And now we were out of my kitchen and, in the fairly, in the east part of the city where we could afford some desks with 60K. And we began to start building Marble and started to try and build some of the features. Unfortunately, what we hadn't really foreseen was that a side project is very different from a production ready, like scalable business. And the thing that we built on the side was never meant to scale because we had just hacked it together in 3 months. We just didn't think anyone was going to use it. So we had to rebuild it. We had to tell our investors, hey, that plan we had to like scale revenue in 3 months, oh, by the way, we have to start from scratch. And what we did do was we added payments after 6 months and we started to make money. So we added Stripe, payment plans, subscriptions, a bunch of features, a couple of extra things that we needed to do. And that was it. However, the 60K ran out because we had hired some contractors and all these other things to help us like move faster. So we needed to keep the engine going and get some more investment to be able to build out the team. There's often stories about what people do to try and keep things afloat while they try and seek out their big idea. And one of the things we used was a payday loan company, which is a terrible idea. And there was a company called Wonga, and I say was because the government shut them down not too long ago because of unethical lending practices. So they were able to give us a loan, a payday loan, and I would use that to keep the servers going and pay some of the contractors so we could continue to build features. The interest rate is ridiculous; it's like extortionate. It's in the thousands. We got a very bad type of loan to do that, and we kept it going. So although this was a terrible service, it did actually save Marble, and one of the things we did after that was get to the point where our numbers were still increasing. We were doing really well. There was lots of people talking about Marble. So we were able to go on and then raise a round of funding to actually hire people rather than just, trying to get a contractor every few days to try and solve something. It wasn't really scaling. So we raised a seed round. And one of the things that happened was that basically in London at that time, there wasn't a ton of seed investors. There were a few, but as I went and started pitching, I ran out of people because we kept getting no's because of not many people really understanding what prototyping was. At that time, they kept saying things like, well, why would anyone use Marble when you could just use HTML, CSS? And that is one of the biggest bits of feedback I got. So I was trying to explain that, not everyone knows how to code and everything, but it wasn't really working. So we kept getting rejected. And I was actually running out of investors to talk to at that point. And so, that wasn't working. But I was lucky enough to get feedback that allowed me to start changing the proposition of Marble, because I think what we started as had quite a narrow view. And because of design not being something as big as it is today, being aimed solely at designers and having a world view at just designers wasn't enough to attract people. So I started to step back and go, right, okay, this isn't working. What do I need to start thinking about to really make this a much bigger vision for the future? Because if you're pitching to investors, you might have where you are today, but they want to know, in the next 5-10 years where you're going and how big that opportunity is. So it started off with Marble being a prototyping tool for designers. But we started to see through the data and just how people were using Marble that actually this has potential to be so much bigger than just designers. And we started to see that it wasn't that designers were using us to build products, it was about solving problems. Like prototyping is a great way to solve a problem of some sort. Like there's validation of trying to validate an idea, you might be trying to fix a flow, you might be solve something. And we saw all these different types of people in these pictures start using Marble. So kids in schools, from 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds to 15-year-olds. And then we had enterprises and these kind of really interesting corporate companies using Marble in design thinking workshops and design sprints, and all these non-designers using us. So we're like, well, it's not just about helping people make better apps and websites. It's actually much bigger. So we started to change the messaging to everyone, trying to include more of an inclusive kind of feel to the product, that it's all about people solving problems together, not just designers. And that really started to work. And we got a yes after that from a fund called Connect Ventures, which is actually where I am now in their office. And they've been an amazing investor to us, and they are willing to, they were willing to jump in and, you know, give us the support we needed to then grow to where we are today. So one of the things I recommend is, like, basically, if you get a rejection, don't think of that just being, you know, the final call on what you're trying to pitch. Try to A/B test based on the different feedback you get, and then keep tweaking until you get a positive reaction from the slides that get a negative reaction. And that's what I still do today. Like, I'll, you know, even at our size and stuff, when we pitch, you tend to find, like, in a meeting, you see someone's face, if it falls flat or they look confused, you're like, oh, that's not really working. If they ask a question, which makes it sound like they don't really know what you're trying to get at, then you might want to change that. And then next time around, you know, put in another slide as a replacement, and just keep going until you feel like you've nailed every slide. One of the suggestions which was put to me was, you're often going to get lots of different people that you can pitch to, and all different degrees. And they say that ones, you need a couple of practice runs in a real environment. So it's also worth pitching to people who maybe you don't feel like it would be a good fit for you as a potential investor, but as a practice run, you know, it's good to get that warm-up experience. So before you get to, like, the ones that you really want to work with, like, try to just form your approach and get as many people as possible in the early stages. So this is a TechCrunch article about when we actually got the funding. I mentioned to them the Wonga loan, and now it's in the headline, and that's there forever. So that's a stupid thing I did on my part. So after surviving a Wonga loan is now, you know, with me for the rest of my life. So, you know, be careful what you say to, be careful what you say to journalists. You know, I thought I was just, you know, reminiscing on a funny story. It turns out, you know, it was a story. So make sure that you have a very good game plan and a script when you're talking to a journalist, because they will pick up on everything you say. So another thing I learned as well, because obviously the journey for us was really tricky, and we got a lot of rejections. It took a long time. I think, you know, the time it took to get investment from the seed round was nearly 6 months, because everyone was rejecting us, and it took that time to get the yes and then get the legals. One of the things I would change about what I did was I would start building my network. If I knew I was going to build a product, or I was thinking about building something, I would start building my network today. I would be on Twitter, getting people for a coffee, reading blog posts, leaving comments, all the stuff you need to do. Like, reach out to people right now, because if you're just going to reach out to them when you need something, it's the wrong time. Like, you've already left it too late. If you're like, hey, I'm raising money, we should chat. It's like, you need to build up relationships. And people are much more willing to invest in you if they know you as a person, if they know your character, they know you're trustworthy, all that stuff. Then, you know, just getting your presentation deck one day and just expecting that to be the only thing they need to know about you, like, it has to be more than that. And often you'll find that investors will say, you know, it's 90% the founders and their character, and it's 10% the idea. Like, you know, they think that if they invest in the right people, it doesn't even matter if they're the wrong idea to start with, eventually it'll become the right idea. And that's the general gist of it. So make sure that you're building your network if you really want to go into this space. And another thing is, I'm not a particularly good networker either. Like, I always felt quite uncomfortable. So I have to, like, you know, breaking out of that out your comfort zone, you know, going to do things, like, if you're an introvert and stuff like that, it can be hard, like, and I get that. But these are the types of things you need to do if you're going to lead and grow a business. Like, you have to put yourself out there. So try and get out your comfort zone if you can. So fast forward to today, you know, Marbles, 35 people, got 3 million users, 20,000 customers, loads of fun, loads of dogs, and, you know, got a great team behind us. And, you know, we're working on what's new, what's next for the business, and we've got some incredibly exciting products that we're bringing down the line. So one of the biggest themes for us right now is, you know, how does Marble have a bigger say in design tooling, and make sure that we are able to help people not just prototype designs, but create designs. So we've been working on some really exciting technology, which allows anyone to design directly in Marble, in real time, create presentations, simple templated graphics, or fully fledged design systems all in one place. So that's one thing that hopefully I'll be able to show you before the next time we speak, hopefully. So that was something to look out for as part of our roadmap. But if there is time at the end of this, I'll try and give you a glimpse of that too. So one of the things that's really important too is that when you start something, you don't have anyone to use it, right? It's like most people, it's a chicken egg problem. So we wanted to find a way to get people to the front door without spending any money, because we didn't have a lot of money to spend on marketing. And plus, marketing is an art form within itself. So I think one of the things you can do is just leverage the things that you know well, which is, for me, I was pretty comfortable with design communities. I was pretty comfortable with, forums and all those things. So I tried to get the word out there. But one of the things we decided to do early on was that, okay, side projects helped create Marble, but could side projects also help promote Marble? And many of our popular features that we have today, whether it's our sketch plugin, user flows, developer handoff, those are all side projects internally. So we built this culture of building and making, and we hire people who are very passionate and dedicated to just exploring new ideas. We have internal hack days. We do those things, but we also actively encourage people to pursue side projects outside of work, because if you do it right, you're naturally going to bring some of those learnings into Marble, and you're going to make Marble better. So we think it's important. It's definitely critical to building a good product. And I think for a lot of people, and for me, even before Marble, the reality is, when you come into work, there are specific projects and challenges that you have to work on. And those may last a long time. Some projects can last 3, 6, 8 months, some even last a year. And to make sure that you're fresh and you're keeping your kind of creative juices flowing, you may need to explore other ideas and get involved in them. And that, I think, was what side projects are great for. So that's why we try to push people towards that, because we know that you need energy all the time, and sometimes that energy can come from outside of Marble, and we think that's worth doing. So this is the project that basically blew my mind, and it opened my eyes to a whole new world of marketing. So I don't know if anyone's heard of this site. I didn't make it, but I stumbled across this, and I realized that the way I thought about marketing was completely wrong. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm just going to open this up. I just need to share more of my screen. If you just give me a second.
You can only see your Marble right now. If you open the browser, you can't see it.
Okay, can you
like the focus is on your app.
Okay, can you see this?
There we go.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna unmute this website tab so you can just hear the noise as well. It's a little bit jarring, but I'll do it. This is all it does. Okay, so that's the website, omfgdogs.com. And for those of you out there who dabble in code and stuff, how long do you think this took to build? I'll just keep an eye on the chat to see if anyone mentions if you were to build this yourself, if you have developer skills, or you maybe know a developer, or you've worked well, like Adam, you as well, how long do you think this would take to build?
Let's see, someone said 1 day, 30 minutes.
I want to work with you, Dennis.
Since it looks like it's repeatable, I would say, probably a couple hours. It doesn't seem like
a couple of hours. We'll take that. So a couple of hours work to create this incredible, beautiful animated GIF site. So I come to this site and I was like, right, let me dig into this more. Let me look at the web stats and let me see how this site's doing. It has, today it has over 1 million likes on Facebook and 10 million page views, right? For something that probably took a few hours of work. And I was like, what have I been doing my whole life? Like I have been working on these agency projects where budgets are in the millions. And, you know, the Captain Morgan app that I built, the Dove moisturizing cream app, they got thousands of downloads, like as in 5,000 downloads or 3,000 downloads. So, you know, those had budgets of 500,000 to 1 million marketing spend. And this, you know, tiled animated GIF with this great 8-bit track is doing, you know, 1,000 times better than these other things. So I was like, right, well, you know, is there a way to leverage this in potentially promoting Marvel? Is there a way that, you know, we can use some of this as inspiration? And I think someone said to me once that if you can tune into the language of the internet and, you know, figure out how people are talking, or just like, you know, whether it's memes or whether it's stuff like this, there is a certain language that makes things go viral. If you know and can speak that, then you could potentially be onto a winner. So I was like, right, let me make one myself. And I can't code, right? So I basically got there was like a JavaScript library or like a jQuery library for a video. And I decided to make this site called dandandan.net. And for those of you who are not familiar with the guy in the middle, he's an English, I guess, comedy character who is just a bit of a fool. And he always makes mistakes and stuff. And he's called Alan Partridge. So I decided to make dandandan.net, and here it is. This is all it does. So that's it. So that's pretty much, let me just close that. Minimize this. So that's all it does. It's a clip where he's trying to get the attention of Dan, and because he's, you know, quite an annoying character that no one wants to talk to him ever again. So you know, he can't grab Dan's attention. So that was it for this experiment. So I put this out there, and it got 60,000 likes on Facebook, and it's like, I think it's over 2 million page views now. So I thought this was a good way to promote Marvel. So I decided to put a little Marvel banner. Let me grab that up again on the bottom right. Don't know if you can see it on the bottom right. There's like, hey, make prototypes free. So this still today sends a couple of thousand people to Marvel every month. However, they are the worst quality users that sign up for Marvel, because obviously people who are looking for dandandan.net are not the type of people looking for design and prototyping tools. So, you know, they don't convert particularly well. But I mean, it is an interesting experiment anyway. I thought there was something to that. So the next one was pick deck. So we had an internal hack day at Marvel, and we decided that, you know, the one of the things you could work on was an idea separate from Marvel, doesn't have to be related, and, you know, you can go off and do your thing with it. And the idea that people came up with was pick deck, which is basically similar to a service called TweetDeck, but for Instagram. And you could basically get different columns of real-time information from Instagram based on hashtags and different things that you wanted to keep on. So a nice little dashboard. And the rule was you can't go home until it's shipped. And that was it. You can build whatever you want. You just got, you can't go home until it's shipped. Aranto asked, wondering what the Harlem Shake version's like. It's crazy. It's I'm not sure it still works, but it basically shook the whole screen, and the Harlem Shake soundtrack came up, and it was very disorientating. So we built Pick Deck, and we released it on a Thursday. And the idea behind Pick Deck was that if we could produce cool things, maybe cool people, good developers would like to come and work for us. And, you know, not about making money, but actually more so about just promoting Marvel. So we released it on Thursday. By the Monday, it was in Mashable, Verge, a bunch of other places, and it was doing really well. And in fact, because it was just quite early on, it was actually growing faster than Marvel. So that was a real problem for our investors, and they said, you better shut that down, because that's definitely not what we invested you in. So we had to shut it down. But yeah, that was a really good experiment, and a lot of fun. And what it did do is, I mean, you know, a number of the developers we hired off the back of it came before, because they saw it and they thought, oh, you look like you do cool stuff, and, you know, you give people freedom and you explore new stuff. And that's what I want in my next role. So that really helps get some great people on the team. Another thing we did is open source some of the work that we had done. If you had used Marvel in the past, the devices that you display the prototype in They were made out of CSS, and we provided that code on GitHub. And again, similar sort of thing. We like, right, all the stuff that we have, can we push it out there and see if anyone is finding it useful? So I trended on GitHub, got to top product hunt, top designer news, brought loads of people to Marvel. This time it was way more related to the product, so people did sign up and convert. It was really good for us because I think at that point we again attracted more developers, but we were actually actively getting submissions on the code as well, because people wanted to add more devices, so they did. So that was really useful too. And this is a really good example as designers, thinking about how much waste you produce as a designer when it comes to design, and how other people might find that really useful as well. Because as a designer, I've got about, I don't know, hundreds of design files that I've never used, or things I've built or designed that are never going to see the light of day. So if they're not going to go out there and anyone's going to see it, why not open source them and just give them away as a kit or something like that, and just put it on your blog or tweet it? So you never know, like one of the people downloading it might be looking to hire a designer, another person might be looking to work with you on the project. You just don't know. So I think it's worth putting those things out. If you're open sourcing your own work as a designer is super important. And the final one, so Swapbox. We entered a Dropbox hack day in London. They were opening an office here and they said, hey, come along. So we went along with the team, and our idea was that, wouldn't it be cool if you could randomly put a photo into a completely random person's Dropbox, and then if you did that, you wouldn't get told where it went. You would only get told the location in the world that it went. And then you would receive one back, because giving one allows you to get one. So we entered this into the Hack Day competition. The judge said, this is the most terrifying use of the Dropbox API that I've ever seen. So that was fun. And we actually won a prize. We won the best design of a Dropbox integration that day. So this is me when I was a bit younger and fresh-faced, but we won that, which was cool. And we got like a $500 check and 20 gigabyte of Dropbox space, which is great. So again, like another really interesting thing to get, you know, the name of the team out there. And I think at that point we were 6 or 7 people, so we weren't a big team, and we started to plaster that on some of our job ads and stuff, you know, winners of the Dropbox integration. Didn't tell them what it was for, of course, because no one wants to know about that service. But you know, it got the word out, which was cool. Okay, and finally, I know we're close to running over, so I'll quickly go through this. But one of the really important parts of how I think about design is that design, if you get it right, it can be really emotive. And in one of the books that really influenced the way I design is this book called Designing for Emotion by a guy called Aaron Walter who used to work at MailChimp. And his view is that every part of a product is an opportunity to delight someone or go viral, whether it's an error message, whether it's a pop-up, whether it's, you know, the experience of moving between screens. If you do those right, then every single person who uses your product doesn't just like your product, but they love your product. And that is the feeling you want to get from people when they use it, right? I mean, how many products do you say you love, right? Like that product has transcended just being a useful tool into being something that you have an emotional connection to. And I think if you do that as a designer, then you're going to have loyal users. You're going to have, you know, people who love your brand. You're going to have people who will pay for you. And that is something I wanted to put into Marvel. So a couple of examples where I think this is done really well. Here's a really good one, like MailChimp. I think this is animated. Let me just see if yeah, so this is in MailChimp, before you send out a campaign, a very nervous chimp hand hovers over a send button just to make sure, you know, that you are definitely going to send it. And if you think about this, they didn't need to put that there, right? They could have just had a big button that said deploy or whatever, but they decided to go a little bit extra and then, you know, had this button in. So very cool. For those of you who don't know what City Mapper is, it's a way to find out directions in a city. Very, very popular app. And you think about all the apps that update in the App Store. When you go to the app update section, it's a very boring bug fixes. We love to send you, we love to improve the app performance, all that stuff. What City Mapper do is they write a short story and every single update. And these short stories are incredible. They're like really well written. They go viral all the time, and people say they can't wait for the next app update because they can read the short story about whatever the random thing they're writing about. So they've taken something that is essentially very, very boring that people don't really look at and turned it into, I guess, a competitive advantage. And, you know, that is helping people get to the door. So I think that's super interesting. For those of you who use Slack, the Slack little messages in between loading, you know, sometimes that you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you. It's like, absolutely no need to do this, right? But very, very fun, very cool little message. Makes you feel like Slack is more of a, I guess, has a more of a human kind of element to it than anything else. And finally, I think it's one more after this. So Photo Jojo, this one's wild. This is a photo photography site where you can buy stuff. You get to the bottom, a dinosaur takes a picture of you, disappears. When you scroll to the bottom, you click on the balloon, their latest Instagram thing pops up, you can pop the balloon. It's insane. So all of these different things help build like this really quirky brand. It's like all over the place, but you know, that's their brand. Like that's how they sell products and that's why people love them. So that's another cool one. So I started to look at how we can include some of this stuff in Marvel. And one of the things we started to do is like, right, where can we add some funny things? And in the old version of Marvel, we decided to add it to the 404 page. So we added these like fail gifts. So when you get to the 404 page, you get these fail gifts. So this is like an example: page not found, cat trying to get into a box, or this one of people dancing. And I think there's the next one of like the guy from House, ironically typing or something. So these were things that we just added on a 404 page, and we're just like, cool, let's be popular. And it turns out that it was like, people were starting to share the 404 page more than they were sharing Marvel, which was a problem. We started to get more traffic to the 404 page, and like loads of people started to do it. And then Bloomberg wrote a blog post about our 404 page, and then, you know, we had a real problem on our hands because all the data just made it look like we had massive problems. So, you know, these are the sorts of things that you can add in. You know, you might not think about them today, but actually there's probably tons of opportunities in your product where people will just have this connection to it because you've gone the extra mile when no one has. So the next one is, this is a very old version of Marvel, but when you paid in the old version of Marvel, we used to give you a confirmation and say, hey, thank you for upgrading. And if you think about any business, the moment that someone upgrades is probably the best thing that's about to happen to your business, right? Someone's seen value in it, they're getting their card out, they're going to pay for it, incredible validation. But most tools, they just give you a tick, like a checkbox or whatever, they say thanks for paying. So we wanted to go a bit further than that. So this actually took ages because we had to use kind of some React library that wasn't compatible and we had to rebuild it. But once you add your card and you pay, you get this really nice confetti that falls down the screen, and it kind of moves with the mouse cursor and stuff. And that was kind of a nice way to just go, hey, thank you for upgrading and stuff like that. And again, even with this, after you upgrade, people jumped onto Twitter and they started to say, hey, this is like, I love giving you my money, which is the best thing that someone could probably say. So that was fun too. And so that's it. So that's the presentation. That hopefully gives you some insight into how products or Marvel and everything else got to where it is today. And yeah, I'd love any questions if you do have any.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Do you have a few more minutes to stick around?
Of course, if you do, yeah, I do.
Okay. So I think we'll stay on a little longer since we have you. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I was definitely laughing. And so it was a great, great journey you've been on there. And obviously I've learned some things about more about you and more about Marvel, more about the journey. You know, one of the things that I guess a question I have for you is, you know, we've had a relationship here for a few years, and what was kind of, I think one of the things that we did, or one of the things that Top Critter did, was we kind of broke your platform too, right? So is there any background or story around that?
Yeah, so the volume, so Top Coder are I think still one of the top 5 active users, and at that time you were the number 1, and you would, so if there was a graph of your usage compared to everyone else, I think, you know, the graph was like almost like straight up. And obviously when you build a product, like you try to anticipate scale, but you can never really think about how a company like Top Coder is going to start putting in so much content that you crash the browser, right? You know, you weren't able to load your dashboard, you weren't able to load like your people list, because we had anticipated 100 projects, but maybe not 5,000 projects, right? So you had 5,000 projects and you were adding so much so quickly that we had to stop work on everything else and basically rewrite the dashboard and the tech behind it so we could load in a smart way all those projects and lazy load and do a bunch of things that Marvel wasn't set up for. So that is, it's a good problem to have. I mean, to have someone wanting to use your product that much, obviously you have to be nimble enough to adjust those challenges, but you can never really know that before starting. Like we could, even in the companies that we sign up to Marvel, design teams are never bigger than, I mean, some of the biggest ones maybe 500 people max, but they never really all use one Marvel account. And those are the sorts of things that we just didn't know and we didn't anticipate. And then since then, performance scale has been one of our key kind of testing blocks now, and we make sure that we have these in place. So it was a learning curve. It was really good to have someone like you to talk to. We were fortunate enough that you were super patient and you allowed us the time to solve that problem. But these are things that you'll never have from day one, and it's impossible to build it because if we would have said maybe back when we had the maximum count of having 100 people, we got to spend months on this solution, then it might not seem right because it'd be like, well, we don't even have that problem yet. Why are we doing it? So these are some of the things that you have to have as trade-offs, and we're fortunate enough that we got through that one with Adam.
Yeah, and for everyone out there, just to, Murat, I want to say I appreciate you guys taking our feedback too, right? So we have a different model than most agencies, most designers, because we do our competition. So the ability to actually showcase all of our designs to customers through your platform, and you guys listening to us having unique needs has been impactful. So thank you for that. And again, for everyone out there, like I had a meeting with Murat a couple months ago, and he came to me with the list of things that they were tackling that we said that I forgot we said. So the slight fact that from their company, from a product standpoint, that they're listening and trying to tackle those things is pretty amazing.
Yeah, super important.
So a question, starting out in this space, you have competitors, right? There's others out there, and now designs going all, what browser based, we're feeling this too, going from Photoshop to Sketch to XD to Figma. You guys have a design tool, kind of where are you thinking? What are you thinking in that space?
So,
and how does that challenge you guys?
Yeah. So one of the things that is obviously a thing that's emerging is that design is moving away from files into the cloud, into the browser, and that is going to be critical for the future. Like it makes so much sense given the collaborative nature of design and also how remote work is going. So several years ago, actually, we already sort of foresee this happening, and we started work on what we're calling Marvel Design Cloud. And essentially, Marvel Design Cloud is a combination of all visual productivity that you might do, whether it's ideation, digital design, presentations, and the things that are around it, whether it's integrations and design systems, all in one place. And I can kind of show you a bit of it now. I'll just see if I'm logged in. But yeah, I mean, we know that unifying everything is going to be key. Having different solutions for prototyping, for presentations, for whiteboarding, all that stuff will, I think that will be a thing in the past. And I think we're clearly seeing that at the moment with Figma and some of the stuff they're doing. Fortunately enough, we had been trying to solve this for some time. And I'm just loading up a different dev environment. So if you give me a second, I'll be able to get this up and running.
While you do that, there's a question. Are you looking to do a plugin for XD or Figma?
So I think we already actually have one for Figma. It's in the Figma store, and it's been around a while. XD, we're talking to Adobe at the moment about that, and just waiting to hear back on a couple of things. But the idea is that we would support that as well, following them making a couple of things available to us.
Right. Okay, there you go, Arian too.
Okay, so bear with me. And okay, so what I'm about to show you is a design tool completely in a browser, made by Marvel. And on the left-hand side, you have all the things you'd expect: pages, shapes, components, all that stuff. On the right-hand side, you have your design system and your tokens, which allow you to define what you want your, I guess, potentially your production to read off the design system, and all the things that you would normally expect in a design tool. Now, the thing that makes this a little bit different is that the different modes in this are whiteboarding, presentations, and graphics. And I can show you one here. So let me just change that quickly. 1 second. Okay, so let's say you're a designer and you are someone who believes that the source of truth should be your design system, but you may be also a different company with a developer who believes the source of truth should be your production environment. So one of the things we wanted to do is be able to sync a design tool up with whatever you use for design tokens. And here we have a website, which I'm just going to show you. It's just a responsive site, which is powered by the tokens that is built by the design tool. So in this instance, I'm going to say, right, I want to change this green to pink, and I'm going to publish this as a change to the design system token. And so I'm going to say change to pink, publish, and then I'm going to head back to the site, hit refresh, and the token that powers the navigation bar is now updated to be pink. So then the design system can be the source of truth, or the code base can be the source of truth, completely up to you. And the other benefit is that the other tools powered by this, such as our presentation tool, can also pick up those changes as well. So here we've got a whiteboarding tool. And as you can see, the pink is used here. And this is all real time as well. It's just me on it at the moment. So I'm going to change that pink again. And this time I'm going to change it to really harsh green. And then head back to the other tool. And you can see the green is updated on the accent color there. So when we get closer to releasing this, there'll be more permissions and push and pull structures in place and syncing, so you don't have to have everything update. But the idea is that all of your components and things update at the same time. And we also have presentation mode. We also have a bunch of other things which you can do, which allow you to create presentations, designs, and whiteboards in one place.
Awesome, that's exciting. Thank you for thanks for the peek.
No, it's all good.
I think everyone here is going to be excited about that too. Okay, I think we have another question here. So on your version 1 of Marvel, how much time did it take to get the prototype up and running?
So the MVP was about 3 months, version 1, 3.5 months, I'd say. In spare time, we were working our own jobs, so it was about that time. So evenings and weekends. Mostly, and we take a day off here and there to do it.
Okay, and then once you got up and running, got your funding, then you had to go rewrite a bunch of it.
Yeah, it's basically build it from scratch.
Okay. Collaboration within Marvel, is that coming? Multiple users in the same prototype?
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe I can show you that. But yes, all the things I showed you support real-time collaboration.
Got it. Okay. And then some of the members, some of the viewers are looking to connect with you. So what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, just ping me an email. It's murat@marvelapp.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for your time today, and thanks for sharing your the product journey, and of course, the glimpse into the future of what you guys are doing. I
It's a
definitely appreciate you
pleasure.
being on today.
Thanks for everyone tuning in, and I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, give me a shout.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday for Workshop Wednesday. Appreciate all of you sticking around a little bit longer. Murat, you have a great evening.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye.